Right. And next we move into what defined what this is a chapter moment in my life. There's only been two of them in music. This was the first one. And it, as most things, came as a result of you. You had seen a band play before a band that was headlining, and you saw them play in Phoenix, Arizona. I believe it was like 81, maybe
80,
82,
this is
81.
81.
Right. And we both end up loving these bands. We're going to talk about the other one in a second, but you saw this band play and you told me about it, and I got an EP, I think it was at the time, and by the time I came out that summer, I was already fully invested in an album called Killers from a band called Iron Maiden,
Oh
and
yeah.
I never went back. And it was because you had turned me on for them. When I heard the first notes of Ides of March, going around, and then going into Murders and Rue Morgue, those little harmonics, I mean, that whole freaking album is just
Oh, wow.
lights freaking out. It is just amazing. And then when you're done with it, you listen to the first album and you hear things like Acacia Avenue and all these other
Phantom of the
songs.
Opera.
Prowler opens it up. You know, it's just like crazy. And then we had Maiden Japan that came out, that EP that came. We heard them live for the first time. And there was some other little EPs like that. I remember going to Rolling Stone Record in Chicago there, where Hip is today. For those of you in Chicago, I'm originally from Chicago. And they had all these EPs about that time, and I was getting these EPs from all over the place of Iron Maiden, even before they came out with Number of the Beast. And I remember going back from that summer that I came out in 81, I guess it would have been. And I
Uh-huh.
came back to high school and I had a Killer shirt. And all the kids in high school like, what the hell is that stupid freaking cartoon crap? What is that stuff? And then Number of the Beast came out the next year and everybody's like, oh, Iron Maiden is the best thing ever. Oh my God. You know, and I'm like, F off, people. You're dirtbags, you know,
Catch
whatever.
up.
We're rivet heads. We're earth dogs. We're rivet heads. We're the real folks. Old metal now, although we were little kids, but it was great. When I heard Iron Maiden play, when Steve Harris, Dave Murray, at that time it was Paul Di'Anno still, and you know, Adrian Smith, and it was still Clive Burr,
Clive
you know,
Burr.
all that stuff. Right. And then, of course, Bruce came in that I was only in for about a year before Number of the Beast came out. And then was the following year in high school, everybody had Number of the Beast shirts because of one song, Run to
Yep.
the Hills.
Run to the Hills.
Run to the Hills. And it was a great
Popular
song.
amongst.
Great song.
They
Great
made a
song.
lot of Native American fans with that song because we
Let's not
remember we
go
went.
there.
There was a lot of that in high school.
Are you serious? So they did like it?
Yeah, they did.
I don't.
Yeah,
So,
Mountain View High School, all the Native
let's go
Americans.
back to that sounds like an interesting side angle, the cultural effects that were going on around you, because we were both at Mountain View. I was out there
Yeah.
at one point for one of my years, like junior year or whatever, before I dropped out. But yeah, I mean, Apache
They
Junction and all
loved
that.
Run to the Hills. White man came across the
Across
sea.
the sea, took our misery. Right? We fought him hard. We fought him well. And on the plains, we gave him hell.
Oh yeah, the Native Americans were like,
Too much work to eat.
These English guys know how we feel.
That's right. That's right. And they are, in fact, the ones that actually. Anyway, but regardless of all that, yeah, Maiden, man. Iron Maiden to this day has been the single most biggest influence on my life, bar none. I mean, it is, though I stopped listening to Maiden full time by the end of the 80s, they're still on my playlist. And in fact, if I bring up my real playlist right now, I have a playlist that's only songs recorded in metal before like 85, and probably half the list is Maiden. And Maiden is one of the few bands that after the era I'm talking about, when I did stop listening to heavy metal, I did continue to, I mean, when they came out with Peace of Mind, and then later with Somewhere in Time, and there was like one or two others that came out about that track, and then they started to lose members and all that. But I came back in years later and listened to them when they came out with a new album like 10 years ago, 5 years, whatever it was. It was about a blimp or something album. But I also went to see them again. But anyway, so they're still there, but they did fade. But man, Iron Maiden, boy, were they a big hit when they hit. How did you feel when you first saw them?
Man, it's just like I went to see Judas Priest and yeah, and Humble Pie, and I didn't know who's this Iron Maiden. Humble Pie was the middle band. Iron Maiden came out, and Eddie was there during Ides of March, and my jaw went, "What? What is this?" And then song after song after song, I was just like, who are these guys?" And I sat right under Steve Harris and Adrian Smith, and Adrian Smith had a gold top Les Paul. That's my favorite guitar, Les Paul, and Ibanez Cherry Red Sparkled Destroyer. I just couldn't. I went right out and I bought Killers, and I went to Tower Records to do it, and I bought the last one, and the guy was like, "Who are these guys? We can't keep these albums here." I said, "Better buy a lot of them."
You better buy a lot of them. They're going to be around. So yeah, Iron Maiden, by far, is my book, the definitive heavy metal band, and certainly the one that changed the course of heavy metal in a way that nobody can argue with. And really, if you look at any heavy metal act since, you will find every one of those members probably will say that Iron Maiden influenced them. And if they're not, well, that's just because they didn't hear Maiden, they heard it from somebody else. So, Troy, who about that time was Maiden about your top one too? I know Priest comes in right around here.
Judas Priest and Iron Maiden. I like Judas Priest because I bought British Steel, and that's the first album I could listen to and go, "I know what he's doing." I don't have to put the needle on. I listen to him go, "I know what he's doing." And I just pick up a guitar and play every song on British Steel without having to figure it out. So I thought I'd learned a lot about guitar because of British Steel, at least as far as listening by ear. That's the first album I thought, well, wow, I know it. I can listen to a guitar player and know what they're doing without putting it on. So yeah, Priest and British Steel. I think that was 1980. Yeah, it might have been. No, it was 81. I saw Maiden, but yeah, Maiden, British, and Priest were like my definitive bands for the heavy metal years.
Yeah. And, Priest with one of my favorite albums from them, obviously British Steel was the one that got us all in there, the Razor Blade and everything. But, a later song, I don't even know if it was Desert Sky or something like that. They have a Desert something song that's really cool. I remember listening to that.
Desert Plains.
Desert Plains, right. I remember listening to that a lot when we lived out in Arizona. When I lived out in Arizona,
That was on an album called Point of Entry.
Point of
Yeah,
Entry, right.
That's the
later.
tour that Maiden and Priest as Killers and Point of Entry were their albums.
Okay, so that's when you saw them. Right, okay.
That's when I saw
them.
But
another album that I remember both of us liked from Priest was Sin After Sin. That album was solid.
That was good.
As far as I think wasn't Green Man Alishi.
That's on Hellbent for Leather.
Yeah. I mean, all of those.
Yeah, I was just a huge Priest fan until Iron Maiden.
Until Iron Maiden. Oh, so you went the same way with Maiden. I always thought that we had some kind of like split there. You went more Glenn Tipton and I went more Dave Murray.
Well,
but that is also getting more guitar player stuff, and we're talking bands.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah. Okay, so the next one for me, I think we've counted them all down. I think we're at number probably 8 now. And I would say the next one for me would have to be Judas Priest, which Troy just mentioned. We both have that. I think at both 7 and 8 interchangeably. Who knows? Going forward, the last two that really impacted me, and I'll say the first one first, was Accept. And I don't even know where we first heard Accept. I know it was either Breaker or before Breaker, the album Breaker. I think it was your second album. But when I heard Breaker, the beginning of that, the Breaker song itself, the beginning, that guitar lick, it just rewired my head. I was like, oh my gosh, this is like all of this new precision I'd learned. We did not mention Randy Rhoads here because we're not talking about guitar style, but that was a big influence on me. But going as a guitar player through all this and being a music fan, precision came into it with Triumph and Iron Maiden. And then when I heard Accept, it was like this crazy, it was like precision in a drunken ballroom brawl. I mean, it was like it's tough leather in your face, but yet extremely tight and very good. And they have since, I mean, to this day, I still see them out there playing. They're exactly as tight and as solid, and Accept was freaking awesome. I would listen to Accept all the time. I mean,
Yeah.
and then this is close. I'm forgetting a lot of the names of the songs, Fast as a Shark and all those songs. I remember all those, but then and Midnight Star and things like that. But when Balls to the Wall came out and they did that bang bang and they had that scene and all that, because now we had MTV and all this stuff.
Yeah.
But man, Accept they were just so freaking good. And what's the name? Wolf Hoffman or something like that's the name of the
Wolf.
guitar player.
Yeah.
Well,
They're
yeah,
all
man,
German.
and that's
Udo
yeah,
Dirkschneider.
Or Udo Dirk Snyder, right? And
Yeah.
this is another story. Later, when I was in the service, just several years after this, I was in Germany, and I was in a town, the town they were from. I knew that because of being
Yeah.
a fan of them when I was younger, and there was a wall around it, and I walked all around. It's Rodenburg, Germany, and I walked all around this wall that day by myself back in January 1986, and thinking to myself, I wonder if I'm going to hear Accept practicing someplace.
That would have been cool.
Like that's going to really happen. But anyway, that's how, I was so infatuated, except it's still at that time. And this is only right after we're talking about. But I don't know. That's my number 9. Who's your number 9? Or do you want to talk about Accept?
Accept's right up there. Let's see. I started branching out and trying to find, because heavy metal was really starting to take traction, and I wanted to know more. So there was a band called Tigers of Pantang.
Oh,
An
yeah. I
album
remember you were all into them. Yeah.
album called Spellbound. I was like, yes. And I think
Tigers of
that's the only good album they had.
Hey, it worked.
Yeah. Tigers of Pantang were really good. I love them.
Right. And then there was things like, well, there was some other bands in that era too, and they might have come right before this, but we had sort of have to toss them out here. Saxon, I loved Saxon. Queensryche before Warning was great. Warning, but that first EP when they had Lady Wore Black and all that other stuff,
That was
great.
great.
That was great. That was solid. It's kind of like Motley Crue. What happened with Motley Crue about this time? They came out with that first album with the the little hands on the belt,
Too
whatever that was
Fast for
called.
Love.
Right. And then the second one, all right, whatever. And that was it. But
Yeah.
and yes, we're gonna piss off some of our fellow Gen X people there, but that's what it was like street level for Gen X guitar players in those days. And maybe you were one of those too, and you disagree. That's fine. That's totally fine. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Talk to us. We'd love to hear about it. In fact, we'd love to have one of you on and talk about it. I mean, we're not going to beat you up, or we're very open about it. We just all have our own tastes, and that's great. That's America. That's what it's all about. But Troy, those are some interesting years. The last one that I want to mention, before I do my number 10, who's your last one you want to mention?
Motörhead.
How did they not come into the picture yet?
I don't know. I had.
I mean, did you just find out about them in late '84?
No, Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy Osbourne came through on the Blizzard of Oz tour, his first album with Randy Rhoads, and Motörhead was the opening act, and I was like, "Who are they?"
Lemmy and Randy.
Yeah, but I didn't go. I missed it, but I heard about this band called Motörhead, and they had a live album called No Sleep Till Hammersmith, and I bought it.
Great album.
I bought it, and I thought, that's those three guys, that lineup, Fast Eddie Clark, Lemmy, and Filthy Phil Taylor. I mean, they've
Hmm.
just I really don't think metal got heavier than Motorhead, Ace of Spades back in
Yes,
that time. It just didn't get heavier than that.
exactly. And in
He didn't
all
they didn't
homage,
need a rhythm guitar player because he put distortion on his bass, and I just thought was just
mhm,
so cool.
but
And he had to look up to sing. There was something wrong with his voice, I think, and he had a
yeah,
ugly ass mole on his face.
that's a
He's like,
real
"I'm
band.
heavy metal band. The stains.
Exactly. Don't look at it, just listen. Right.
The ladies
No, the
love it."
reason I've always been Motorhead with me has always been a weird one because it's, being a lifelong Earth Dog, Rivethead, all these other things. It's Motorhead and I don't really have a strong history of a time that I binged on them, but they've certainly always been there, and I've certainly always loved being around it. But the timing just wasn't right, and I think for me is maybe I missed it when it was going on. Like if I had started with them earlier, but by the time I had been through the metal grind and then learned about some of the earlier stuff, and again, we're talking about early, early days of metal. We're talking about before bands like Poison and,
Yeah.
Shout at the Devil isn't even out yet, and so, or maybe it's out, but we're not
Yeah,
paying
well,
attention. But so we're talking about the early 80s here. And yeah, Motorhead was still huge. And I remember everybody being into Motorhead, and I was too. I mean, I thought they were great, but it's kind of like me and Led Zeppelin and The Who. I had a lot of friends that were into Led Zeppelin and The Who, and I love Led Zeppelin and The Who. But they can talk about Led Zeppelin and The Who and probably say Iron Maiden the same way I'm saying those other bands. And so
yeah.
I just didn't gravitate as strong there for whatever reason. Doesn't matter why, it just is. And so that's the way it was. And so, deal with it. Like it is.
Remember all
So,
the kegger parties in high school? I mean, all they played was Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd, and that's when the Wall movie came out, and that's when The Song Remains the Same. Those 2 movies were out in the midnight theaters, remember? Every midnight.
yep. And Rocky
So
Horror Picture Show.
that and I liked them, but I was just so tired of Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin. Never did like The Who, still don't. But because of the kegger parties in high school and having to listen to Zeppelin and Pink Floyd, I wanted something new. Somebody show me out of this mess, man. I love those bands, but I
Troy,
just
listen to what you're saying. Listen to what you're saying. You're saying that in 1981, 82, that Led Zeppelin and Pink Floyd were already old. Okay? Let that sink in. Let that sink in for
right.
everybody else listening out there. I don't care when you were born. Okay? When you hear Dark Side of the Moon today, when you hear Comfortably Numb from Pink Floyd, or you hear The Wall, we don't need no education, all that stuff, this was old then.
Yeah,
Old then. And that was how many decades ago? Scores of that, right? I mean, it's funny the way that we're saying that.
I was so sick
I was
of it
over
when it
Pink
was
Floyd. Right.
like
I mean, I already
2
said
years.
Kiss was done in 78.
I was sick of, and it really wasn't that old, 2 years old, and I was already tired of their stuff,
We're burned out, man. Come on, something
Bring
new. People do
Show me
fads
something
all the
new.
time, right? So,
Yeah.
hey, we were the fad of the day, right? I mean, that's how long we lasted. By the time we got out of metal, everybody had their hair poofed up and we were wear makeup like they were abroad, So, I mean,
Ruined
come
it.
on.
They
They
ruined it.
ruined it. So the last one, my number 10, was when I went to the Precision with Spee. And that's when it actually happened. I already knew about this band before I saw them. And like I said, we'll talk about bands that we saw together. I saw Accept and this band together in 1984 in a little bitty place, like 700 people. But when I first heard Raven, and I was like blown away by how simple yet proficient yet fast it was. I mean, Raven was like taking everything that we just heard and putting it in a chainsaw and but it all made perfect sense. They weren't just fucking around. They weren't just over here doing some bluesy kind of escapism or whatever, or just trying to do some harmony or playing with their fingers all over the place. They were just playing rock and roll at a very fast pace with a metal heavy influence on it with Marshall stacks. 3 guys, 2 brothers and a drummer, and they kicked ass. And when I went to see them play at that little place that I'll talk about again, I was not let down. It was it is, and I'll say it again when we have that episode, probably not my best concert that I ever went to, favorite, but in the metal years, yes, absolutely. They blew me away live. They blew me away with their music. And though they were a relatively short-lived thing, because right after this, I sort of got out of metal, man, Raven to this day, they're on that playlist that I talk about, and I loved the way they did that. Live at the Inferno, I saw them, it was the tour right before that, and they were freaking awesome.
Yeah, they had that
Troy,
album
you remember
cover where
Raven?
all the amplifiers were knocked over and they were like jumped on them, and the drummer had a helmet on. And the guitar player for metal, he had a Telecaster. I was like, I kind of like that guy. What's he doing? That's
A
doesn't belong in this
Telecaster in
music.
metal, right? That's like the country western guitar. Why are you playing that
Yeah.
thing, Hick? Right,
Why has he got
exactly.
this white Telecaster? How does it sound so cool?
Has nothing to do with the shape, man. It has right. It's like everybody's out there trying to play like every other guitar player in the world. Doesn't matter if you can put all the stomp boxes and amps and guitars and you replicate it all you want, but if you can't play, you can't play.
Raven.
Raven.
Yes, Raven. What a great
All right.
band.
So you're number 10.
Huh?
What was the last, as we get out of this sort of, we're getting out of high school now. What was the last band that you really was new to you getting out of high school? 1984.
Man, who would it be? Because we played in our own band. I was so wrapped up in our own
I
band.
know. That's why I've been using bands I was already into.
I didn't like anybody because I thought we were better than all the other bands. I thought we deserve a shot at this. We can do better than any of these other people out here. So my favorite band was Enemy, really, in 1984. I didn't.
Well,
I
there you
don't think
go,
I
folks.
bought
Enemy
much.
in 1984.
I don't really think I bought
No,
many albums after once we started going. I didn't care for
right.
anybody's music.
Right. The only albums that I bought after that in the metal space were the Iron Maiden ones that I mentioned earlier.
Yeah, because
Just to sort of keep up with Maiden because I liked them.
When 84, 83, when we had our own band, Metallica had come out, and I thought, these guys they sound pretty good. They sound like Motörhead. I like this. Kill 'em all. And then we played, and I really believe we were equally as good. We could have been on tour with any of those bands and floored everybody. So I stopped listening to music because heavy metal had taken a sad, sad turn to the grave when Poison came out with their Hair, Molly Crew, and then it was just all downhill. And I really lost interest in metal. I thought, this is over. This revolution just came and went like that. It's over.
Exactly. It was fast for us. And for the heavy metal fans out there, all you purists or historians, we all understand that heavy metal may have began with Deep Purple way back in antiquity, and that's fine. And heavy metal obviously went through the Iron Maiden. Even Iron Maiden started during the early 70s, okay? There's no doubt heavy metal was there before the actual metal time that we talk about, roughly 80 to 85, 84. But for us, as garage band guitar players playing in Gen X bands in those days, that's how we saw it. So that's just our opinion. And that doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It's just ours. And the way that we interpreted and the way we saw things after that, the way we talk about the way that hair metal totally turned us off, the way that we even talk about some of the bands that we liked that suddenly went south. doesn't
Yeah.
mean that we don't like them or that you are wrong for liking them. Music is great, and whatever it does for you is great. I mean, just we're not trying to be judgmental on other things, though we may say judgmental things. We don't mean it in spirit. It's just in jest and in just talking about this stuff like this. And so we hope that this is a long-winded top 10. And we will talk about more things later. But if you like this kind of content, be sure to let us know below. Comment below. We'd love to hear from you. Tell us what your favorite bands were. What were some of the favorite bands you ever saw live? What are other things you would like to hear us talk about? Do you want us to talk about building guitar stages back when we were kids? Building our first guitar rigs, buying our first guitar store, or our first guitars themselves, or a store, though we haven't done that yet. Maybe we could. We could talk about anything you want. Just let us know in the comments below. Troy, thanks for being on for another exciting episode of Gen X Transplant Brothers. And I'm going to leave it up to you to come up with the topic for the next one. So everybody, on the next one, Troy is in charge.
Pandex.
Goodbye from Troy from North America. I'm saying goodbye from South America. And hopefully, Troy, we're going to see each other in about a month-ish in Chicago for Christmas. So until next time, folks, we will be here, Gen X Transplant Brothers. Stay in touch.
Bye.